Can Cade Klubnik bounce back against Troy in week 2? We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on the flagship station 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And a big salute out there to my everydayers. You know who you are. You know how we do it here on Locked on. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday every single week. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. Hope you enjoy it. 75% of viewers are not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss another episode. We have a jam-packed discussion today. Going to start with the rebound mission against Troy. Clemson now have to pull themselves up from the LSU loss, and we'll look at the Troy game and the betting lines and the key players to look for and what our expectations are for Clemson in week 2. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here, and visit the FanDuel app today to start planning your bets today. Last week was rough. You know it was rough. I know it was rough. It was rough. LSU exposed some of the issues that Clemson now has to go into week 2 to try to fix. And, you know, my friend Lawton Swan, he mentioned, he was over on Clemson Sports Talk, and he mentioned that, well, what if you just switched the score 17-10? Wouldn't you just be happy with that and you'd walk away with a win? And I say, yeah, you know, you would probably think that Clemson is walked away with the win and they were able to make some key plays to get that win. And LSU is still a very, very good team, and they just weren't able to make the key wins. But, you know, the score itself and flipping the score doesn't give you the whole picture, right? You know, Clemson had a lot of things that inside that 10 points made you scratch your head a lot about, you know, what they did with the running game, what they were doing with the play calling, what they were doing with the blocking schemes. A lot of concern across the board, not just from me being a talking head over here on Locked on Clemson, but also from many, many experts across the nation, from you know, ESPN to others on X, just kind of looking at the film and saying, man, Clemson really didn't get off on the right foot. And I think when we talk about rebounding and starting that mission towards the rest of the season, because you still have 11 games to go, you first start with the running game and resetting that. You know, only 4 attempts in the third quarter and no attempts in the fourth quarter against LSU. Well, that is unacceptable. I never want to see that again. I never want to say that stat again, because, you know, for the lack of running traditional superstar running back that you have, they have a group that we believe in and that we were hyped to see, and they didn't really get a fair shake against LSU. Adam Randall and David Eziomume and Gideon Davidson must be featured more consistently to help balance out the Clemson offense and to help keep the defense guessing at what Garrett Riley's play calling is going to be. Because without a viable run threat, Cade Klubnik becomes more predictable and more vulnerable, as we saw. So you have to be able to protect your quarterback and keep your defense honest. Now, another thing is Cade Klubnik has to be comfortable, and to help him be as comfortable as possible, you have to have a running game, at least continue to try it. Now, LSU, on the other hand, they didn't have a ton of success rushing the ball. Now, they did have a couple of good plays here and there sprinkled in throughout the game, but there were many times where the running backs were just hitting a brick wall against that Clemson defensive front. But the big difference between LSU and Clemson is the LSU Tigers didn't stop. You know, they didn't just give up on it and go straight into the pass play or all passing. You know, like Clemson did. And the really interesting thing about Clemson too was when you look at the passing chart that I did over on X, at the Morgan T show, you can see that they spread the ball around really well. 7 to the left, I think 12 to the center, 14 to the right. You would expect more to the right because he's a right-handed passer, or he's right-handed, but they did spread the ball around, 6 behind the line of scrimmage. They did spread the ball around, but the completion percentage was not there. The biggest thing wasn't that he wasn't spreading the ball around or that he wasn't using the middle of the field. I mean, honestly, when you look at the passing chart that I did over on X at the Morgan T show, the passing chart looks really good over the middle of the field. It's just the completion percentage was at 50%, which, as you know, is not successful for a quarterback of his caliber at this level of college football. And so Cade needs to figure out how he can get more comfortable. Clemson needs to get him more comfortable, get him away from that pressure. And, Troy is not going to have that kind of talent to be able to put as much pressure on Cade as LSU did. So naturally, this is a good rebound or reset game, not only for Cade and his patience and his confidence in the pocket, but also for the running game and just actually using it. We cannot expect Cade Klubnik to play at his best if he doesn't have a run threat to protect him, or to really throw the defense off and keep the defense balanced against him. Without a run threat, Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley and Clemson in general on the offense just become extremely predictable. We hated hearing Brian Kelly talk about that and say that it was almost easier for them because they just kind of knew what Clemson was going to do once they gave up on the run. I know it's frustrating to keep bringing that up, but that is what happened. And so now Troy is the game where you want Cade to be more comfortable, the running game to actually be used and utilized. So with those players, you want to see not just Cade, though. If they get out to a bigger lead, you'd like to see Cade and then Christopher Vizina and then Chris Denson. All three of those guys get in on the rotation, see what they can do. I know from the spring game, I really liked Denson and how he added some spark into the dual threat, part of a quarterback and his ability to kind of run around. I like that from him. Will he ever become a starter for Clemson? Hard to say, but I did like that kind of change up of pace from what you're used to. Cade's kind of a dual threat, but a little awkward at times. You'd rather him be in the pocket. Christopher Vizina is a pretty good runner himself, so I'm curious to see what he would do, because Christopher Vizina is kind of the next man up when it comes to 2026. So if we don't see him in this game, then that'll be a bigger problem on the offense because they didn't get out on a big lead in a team that they should have a bigger advantage against. As far as the running backs, would like to see more of a rotation of those guys too. Randall needs more touches. Really, all of them need more touches. Randall needs more touches. Easy Omume needs more touches, and Gideon Davidson needs more touches. What they did against LSU was unacceptable for sure. Finally, the biggest thing for me that I'm looking forward to seeing, I hope we see this week that we didn't see last week, is Tristan Smith. I mean, his size, his ability on the outside. I want to see what he can do as an outside wide receiver, as that big, tall guy, because he actually had a good spring, and then you really didn't get to see him at all against LSU. Same thing goes on the defensive side of the ball, and Jeremiah Alexander. I'd like to see what he brings to the defense, and if they can get him implemented more often than they did against LSU, which was 0. And also Brandon Strozier, we heard about him. We got a lot of hype on him. He had a good fall, and then they didn't really play him. So how will he be able to work against Troy? Will he be able to get in there as well? It's not just about winning this game, and that. It's not just about winning this game. It's really about getting back to the basics, rebounding from a bad loss, building those habits that you want to hopefully carry on the rest of the season, settling the team back down, setting a tone for what is expected of this team going forward, and being dominant in areas that you need to be dominant in as an elite team in a higher pro tier conference in college football. The games will only get more difficult. The games will only get more difficult, not only because of the opponent, but also because they're going to have to go on the road here very soon. So a lot that they need to prepare for, and this is a great game for that. You know, it might be even better if Clemson go away from those extremely difficult week 1 games because of what we saw previously. You know, so it is difficult to win. Of course, it's difficult to win, difficult, you know, against hard opponents in the first week of the season. But that's all in the past now. So you have to be able to rebound and figure out what you can do. Also, will we see Ian Shefflin? You know, I know Dabos, when he says he's going to kind of try to rotate him in, but he's still got a lot to go to earn trust to get back in there. So next up here on Locked On Clemson in segment 2, I want to talk about the scouting report on Troy, what players I've looked at, what my thoughts are on them, and what you need to know as a Clemson fan getting into this Saturday. It's almost the weekend, time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most, and let's break it down. For Clemson and our favorite team here, you know, I originally said Ronan Hannafin earlier this week. I'm going to go also with Jack Smith, the punter. I know there was a lot of concern about how he would react or be able to work this season. And the first game of the season, not so bad. 3 punts overall, a 50-yarder, and averaged 44 yards per punt, and one was inside the 20. So I think Jack Smith was what bright spot in an area where we thought would maybe not be and be very inconsistent in the special teams. So just like Jack Smith delivered for Clemson when he needed to, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it all up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than just safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. And as an elite athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, segment 2 here on Locked On Clemson. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you can never miss an episode going forward. The Troy Trojans are going to be up this weekend, 3:30 game against Clemson, and they are a Sun Belt team. They're not a Power 5 team, but they do have some good playmakers on the team, and I feel like that we need to take a look at some of their top returners and also take a look at some of their transfer portal players as well, because as we know, teams nowadays are supplemented by transfer portal players. But let's start with some of their top returning players. You have Devin, Lafayette. He's a hybrid safety. In 2024, 51 total tackles, 29 solo tackles, 22 assists, 6 tackles for loss. Now, Lafayette, to me, when you look at film on him, he's a pretty well-rounded hybrid guy. He's going to be in that spear position that they talk about, and that's your Isaiah Simmons type guy that's just going to be all over the place for them. So he's a very well-rounded defender who I think his key and the place that he flourishes the most is in run support. 51 tackles, as I mentioned, 6 for loss, 10 pressures. He's kind of that guy that gets up to the line of scrimmage and is that engine for the defense. He has great instincts. He's extremely consistent. A lot of people say that he's going to be a guy that you can trust at the next level in the NFL. One thing that when I look at some of the scouting reports on him, his speed may not be there as well, and his coverage ability may not be there as well. So when you think of Lafayette, think more of a guy who's going to come in and run support and really disrupt things and get to the quarterback and be behind the line of scrimmage. Want to be where the ball is, though. So wherever that ball is, he's going to try to get a ton of tackles for this team. He could be one of those kind of day 3 NFL picks. He's very versatile, very strong. Typically I'd probably say more of like a nickel, but leaning towards an outside linebacker there. So Devin, Lafayette, first guy up on the list that you're going to likely see out there. And then Louis Medina, defensive tackle. If you look at his stats, doesn't have a ton, but we know that defensive tackles don't get a ton of those. He's been around forever at Troy. He's physical. He's an anchor in the trenches. He's the type who plays through double teams, and he tries everything he can to disrupt lanes. Again, his stat line is not super flashy, but take away the stats, but he still is out there making an impact on how he occupies offensive linemen. This guy is somebody who probably won't get drafted, in the NFL draft, but he could be somebody who gets on as an undrafted free agent or get a camp invite. You can trust him against the run, but not super game breaker in the pass rush. So as you already can tell, I've mentioned 2 guys that are going to be more heavily in their zone when it comes to defending the run. So that's where the one challenge is going to be. We mentioned in the previous segment about rebound and getting back on track, and the running game has to get back on track. And I wouldn't be surprised if there will be some running plays that aren't successful because of Troy having players that are really good against the run. Now, ultimately, Clemson's got to continue to fight through it and not do what they did against LSU and just give up on it. So they've got to keep fighting through. They've got to keep running against these guys and hopefully wear them down as the season goes, or as the game goes on, and rotate your running backs through as the game goes on as well. So that's going to be kind of a strength versus strength, or a strength versus unknown, I guess, because we don't really know from Clemson's side of view, how good their running game is yet. But I'm curious to see, it'd be easy to say, okay, let's just sit Cade Klubnik back and just throw all over them. But on the other end, I'd like to see them go against the run against a Troy team that is pretty good against the run, and see what you can do. They're coming off a big win against Nicholls State. So they're excited to get to this game and go up against a big-time opponent in Clemson. On the offensive side of the ball, Eli Russ, offensive guard, had a little bit of injury last season, but when you look at Pro Football Focus, his efficiency rating is in his most recent 5 games is almost perfect. He's allowed, according to them, 1 sack and almost 300 pass blocking snap situations. So this guy's more of a pass blocker for Troy, and one of the top rated guys in the country as far as pass blocking goes. So he helps support, big time running game and receiver, both 1,000 yards for Troy while he's been the offensive lineman there. To me, technician, extremely smart, polished guy. He excels, again, in pass protection and extremely efficient. And he's a veteran as long as he can stay healthy. He's not a mauler, but he's definitely reliable. And he's one of those guys on the team that could be, towards the end of the NFL draft, one of those dependable type offensive linemen that, has the talent to get to the next level as long as they stay healthy. As far as transfer portal players, one name that or maybe 2 names, maybe 3 names that you're going to remember or know is Ra Thomas, wide receiver, Georgia, Mississippi State. He didn't really have that big of a season last season, 23 receptions, 383 yards, 1 touchdown, but he has that size and physicality. He has experience at the higher levels of college football in the SEC, and he's a deep threat frame, and he's got some speed. His numbers just been extremely inconsistent and not going in the right direction. But to me, he's always a risk out there when he's out there. And he may not even be a starter for the team, but he's definitely somebody that is a risk of taking the top off of the defense in the secondary. So you got to be careful with him. And you obviously remember his name if you've been paying attention to college football. Trey Cooley, another guy you might know from Georgia Tech. He didn't really have that big of a season last season either. But, he's somebody that I think could get in the rotation. And, he is a decent running back that's kind of physical and has some pretty good lower body strength. Another guy they got from Georgia Tech's an offensive lineman in Patrick Screws Jr. He's a big body guy. And so 6'5", 325 last time I looked. So obviously he has the measurables, but that's six of the guys that you can kind of take a look at for Troy going into this weekend. But again, it's less about the opponent, less about the matchups, and to me, more about seeing the right players out there, doing the right things, sticking to the game plan, following what the coaches are wanting, what the offensive coordinators are dialing up. All right, segment 3, we're going to go into the picks and what Vegas is saying about the game and the point spread. And, I'll give you my final thoughts on Clemson versus Troy right here on Locked On Clemson. Hey, Locked On Clemson fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 this year just from buying the gas you already need. At first, I thought this was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime in your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card on Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive by on you. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time code FOOTBALL. That's FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for the full terms and conditions. The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm telling you, $300 is the most I've seen since I started here on Locked On this year, and that is a great, great deal. I love FanDuel because it's easy to use, and it also, their research and data really helps you understand the game even more. Even if you don't make a play, you can really go in there and see the pulse of the weekend, what games are happening, what players are expected to do well, with whether it be your team that you're previewing or the other teams that are out there. It makes every game more exciting when you get into it, and you also use those same game parlays, or you get into some last minute action. Whether you're watching your team or you're keeping an eye on your fantasy football team, or you're just trying to get in on some action on other games that you find interesting that you're going to have on the TV. It's quick, it's easy, it's fast, and in the best way possible. You can go on your app and do everything super, super easy and simple and make your Sundays that much more exciting. So what are you waiting for? Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. All right, we're finishing up the show here. Thank you so much again for being a part of the show. For my everydayers here on segment 3, thank you for sticking with me towards the end. And as also, if you're a newbie, you're not an everydayer, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Then you can also become an everydayer as well. Clemson right now is a 31.5 point favorite against Troy. Can they actually cover it? Now, here's my thing. I've done the Roar Pick'em contest many years now, and I've done things on FanDuel and on all the other apps out there, but a 31.5. Now on the Roar's thing earlier this week, it was like 33.5. It's gone down a little bit, 31.5 points makes me a little bit nervous because I don't like to do anything really over 21 points, in my opinion. Now, 31.5 is kind of tough, but would you be willing to do 31.5? Honestly, I'm going to say no. Okay. Now, Clemson could cover. They definitely could. I mean, 31.5 is not too bad, but, and especially if they're motivated after the pretty frustrating LSU loss, especially if they want to send a message. Troy's secondary, I don't think will be able to keep up with Clemson's wide receiver group. Cade Klubnik should be able to carve them up. As I mentioned earlier, their offensive line should have time because the defense, if I could tell you what their strength is, it's more of the stopping the run than it is stopping the pass. So for me, Clemson could air it out and get up to a big lead, get Christopher Medina in there, and I think he could probably score on you as well. And they could walk away with an over 30-point win, 31.5, 32, right? So it is possible, but after last week, it's also kind of like, do I really want to push my luck here? Why does Troy be able to keep it within or cover? I would say, they have some playmakers. They have Trey Taylor, we didn't mention, but he's also a good wide receiver out there. Ra Thomas, as we did mention, they can generate a couple of big plays when they need to and keep it within 32. And if Clemson's offense, has problems against the defense, if they can't run the ball again, which would be shocking to me, but if they can't, then Troy could very easily keep it under 32. I would say that for me, it just seemed like a lot of points, to put up against your own team, even though it's at home. You never know what's going to happen once you get up to a big lead. Once you get over 21 points, then if you say get over 28 points, to me, that's when you really start to slow things down. I would say Clemson probably does win comfortably in this game, but I'm not really feeling it enough to say that Clemson's going to win by 32. So if you were to give me an opportunity to give you a score prediction, and you can give me yours on, if you want to reach out to me on X or in the Insider program, if you're there, or in the comments, I'm going to say Clemson 38 and Troy 40. Or it's not 40, excuse me, 14. Clemson 38, Troy 14. If I said 40 and I meant it, you guys would be like coming after me, I'm sure. No, I didn't mean that. I meant 38-14 Clemson. That's what I'm thinking. Again, if you're going to pick against the spread, I'm going to pick Troy. And I actually did on the Roar Pick'em contest as well. So that's what I'm going with. We'll have to see how everything kind of shakes out. Big time reminder to you as well. If you weren't here last weekend, I have agreed to do and committed to do post-game shows. So once the game is over, really immediately after the game is over, I'll have a live Locked On Clemson post-game reaction show for you to join in, and you can give in your thoughts and comments, and we can go through the game together. It'll be just like this normal show layout, but it'll be live where you can get in your questions and we can kind of try to answer them live as well and break down everything that I saw from the game. So thank you so much again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. It's another big moment here on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. And as always, Tiger fans, hey, that's it for this show. That's it for this week. I will see you after the game, immediately in the post-game show right here live. And we'll see you, Tiger fans, at the top of the hill.